Okay, so you've been working in copper. Now we're going to practice in steel because you're going to do some assessments in your steel frames. So I want to show you how to work with it, and as always safety is paramount. So if you've got gloves, okay, because you're going to be working with sharp edges, okay, it's always a good idea. If you don't, put some barrier cream on, because that will protect your hands against things like dermatitis, okay?
Yeah.
So if you haven't got gloves, make sure you put some cream on, okay?
Yep.
Now, the steel comes in big long lengths, so be mindful if you're working with it, cut off the amount you need. Don't have a big long length of pipe sticking down a workshop because it could be a tripping hazard, right? Or if you're swinging a big long length of pipe around, you know, you might accidentally hit someone with it. So work with the length you need, okay? Like we do with the copper, make sure you cut it just to what you need, all right? Yeah. Now, we use medium grade steel in the workshop, okay? You can get hard grade, which you can weld. This stuff we can bend, and as you can see here, someone has demonstrated a offset, okay? Which is something you have to do in the plumbing workshop. You guys are just going to be cutting straight lengths in the gas workshop and using fittings. So, now, when you're using steel, you have to use one of these vices, okay? Because that keeps the pipe locked in, and this little bit here is the locking arm. You have to make sure that's engaged before you tighten the vise, okay? Now, sometimes they will slip, so just be careful. But once it's all set up in there, it's not really going to go anywhere, okay? Now, when you want to cut, the best thing to use are these wheel head cutters. So very similar to the cop cutters, but a lot heavier, obviously. They've got a wheel in here that will cut the steel. It'll give you a nice round end. You can use a hacksaw, but you've got to be careful that you get a nice level end, okay? So when you're using these, don't tighten up too much because you'll break the wheel, okay? So just gently, okay, like you would do with a copper cutter, go around the pipe. So I'm going to attach it, okay, and the steel sits on these rollers, okay? Yeah. A bit more. Okay, you just want to engage it so that the wheel bites, okay? Then you turn, okay? So you score in the pipe and then go around, okay? Getting a little bit tighter with every revolution. Okay? As you would do with your copper cutter, going around the pipe, gradually tightening. If you go in too tight, you can form a raised lip on the end of the pipe, which you need to file off with your flat file, right? So if you do it nice and steady, okay, you can see it starting to cut. Yeah. With every revolution, you tighten it a little bit, okay? So eventually, you should get through. Now, much harder to cut steel, so I hope you had your Weetabix this morning. All right. If you thought that 22mm was hard, wait till you start threading pipe all afternoon. I hope you've come prepared, gentlemen. So, once we get there, like I say, it takes a bit more than copper. Right, so that's why we wear steel toe cap boots, because we don't want to be dropping steel pipe on our feet, do we? Okay, so you've got a nice clean end, but what you can do is fire the end away a little bit to remove some of those sharp edges, because that will be razor sharp. Hence why we wear gloves, okay? Or barrier cream. Now, what I want to put on the end of this pipe is a 3/4 inch thread, okay? When you get the steel, you might have a bit of a thread on one end. So you'd have to cut that off or carry on, but it might be damaged, okay? So it's best to start with a new thread, okay? And we're going to be threading this end. Now, when we use our stocks and dies, okay, this has got teeth inside it, okay? They need to grip into the steel to give it a thread. Those are much harder than this steel. So, we use oil as a lubricant and a cooling method, okay? So you need to have plenty of oil which is why we always put a bucket underneath so it catches any drips, okay? Because you don't want a slippery workshop floor, because health and safety, we need to make sure we're not tripping over things, okay? So, put the end back in the vise, and then you've got your piece that you want to work on, okay? So, put a bit of oil on it, okay? Then, you need to put it on this way, okay? So the teeth pointing away from it, okay? Push it on. Now you've got a directional arrow, okay? So when you are engaging the pipe, it needs to point in the direction you're going to pull, okay? Okay? And what you have to do, you have to put your body weight into it. You'll hear it. Can you hear it start to engage? All right. Once it starts, okay, if you all have a look in there, you can see the what I'm looking for, what's the word? The thread. Yes. Right. Now, because we are generating a thread, we also generate swarf, which is very, very sharp. Okay, so as well as putting oil in throughout the process, we also need to burn, essentially. Okay, so you turn this the other way around, okay, and do a couple of rotations, and it should drop out into the bucket once you've built some up, okay? Right, we haven't got enough yet. So, then you turn it back the other way, body weight, and in you go, right? Whilst remembering to put the oil in, okay? It's very important you put the oil in for cooling and cutting purposes, because this will expand, okay? Sweat already. Okay, see the bits dropping out? Okay, do about 2 or 3 rotations and then back to thread. Okay, and we want to thread until this end of the pipe is just in line with this inner lip. So we've got quite a way to go yet. Can you see? Okay?
Yeah.
So, keep threading, adding oil, okay, every 3 threads, get the swarf out, okay, okay, and back to cutting position, engage the machine. Oil. Okay. That's when it starts getting a bit harder. Okay, you see we're getting a bit closer to the edge of where we need to be. Okay?
Yeah.
The teeth are almost at the end of the pipe. Okay? So swarf's dropping out into the bucket. Almost there. Right, a bit more oil. And you need to use your body weight to press it down. Okay. And you notice the end getting quite hot. So again, gloves are quite useful for this. It's a hard workout because you can see I'm getting a bit out of breath. You need to make sure your vise is nice and tight. Okay. And just about there. You see where the position of the pipe is, just inside the lip of the machine. Okay. So now we need to reverse it. Be very careful when you're taking it off, because the swarf could flick up into your face, okay? So, under control, wind it all the way back, okay? you should be able to pull it off. Okay. Now we need to clean the end of the pipe up. You've got quite a collection of swarf in there. Okay. You use a wire brush and brush it so it's away from your face. We don't want to brush it and flick bits of metal into our eyes. Okay. So shield it with one hand, brush it out. Okay. Just catch my breath. As you can see, we've now got a 3/4 inch thread. Okay. Now, like when we're making up our mechanical copper joints, we need to use PTFE thread, and in gas we use yellow. Okay. But if it's for water, we can use white. Right. So plumbing you use white, gas you use yellow. Because we're in the gas workshop, we're going to use yellow tape. Okay. Now, same as before. We're going to make sure the vice is shut and apply enough thread to the end of the olive. So we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And then we'll talk about our fittings. These are malleable, okay? They're softer than steel. So, when we're thinking about tools, we never want to put a tool on this because it will easily mark and potentially damage the fitting, okay? You've got T's, elbows, straight couplings, and unions, okay? So when we think about the union, we've got 2 bits of metal touching each other, haven't we? What we do is make a collar of tape. So you sort of have to make it a bit thinner. And you basically make a washer out of tape, okay? Now you need to gauge the thickness, it's a bit tricky, okay? Once you get it going, it should be okay. And that provides the seal, okay? When you bring the union together, you build up washer made out of tape, okay? And when you put that bit back on it, it forms a seal, okay? And you tighten it back in with the nut, okay? Once you get your grips on it, okay, tighten it in. Right, we never use this tool on steel, which is a Stilson. You can hold on to the pipe with that, okay? On these fittings, you must use your spanners. Okay, so that tightens down, then you get a union. Okay, now when we want to wind a fitting on, you start off by hand. Okay, then you can use any scrap bit of pipe to wind into one end and use it as a lever. Okay, because like I say, you don't want to really put tools on this. You can use your spanners, but never use the Stilson because it can crush and mark the fitting. Okay, so just wind it on. Now it's the tape that makes a seal. So when you're thinking about your distances in between pipes, say if it's 600mm, okay, wind it on, keep measuring. Might need a little bit more, measure again. Okay, it's not how tight you do the fitting, it's the actual tape that makes the seal. Right, so you need to judge when you wind it on for every 2mm. You need to think about how much do I need to go further. Right, so in steel we use a Z dimension, which is exactly the same as the X dimension you can use on your copper. Right, so just think about that when you're using your fittings. It's where the pipe stops to the centre of the next pipe that we're looking for. So on this piece, from the middle of this pipe, if there's another piece here, we'll be looking at centre to centre. All right. With these fittings, if there were water fittings, they might be coated in zinc. Okay. And that will indicate that it's for potable water. Okay, but for your purposes, you'll be using non-malleable ones, which are just metal. Okay. All right. Everyone happy with that? Yeah. So remember, no Stilsons on the fittings, only on the pipe. Okay. They work just by tightening up, not like that, to give you a bit of grip on the pipe. Okay. Any questions? Right. Oh, sorry. For the method, like I said, you can use a hacksaw to give cut, but you get a much cleaner cut with your pipe slice. Okay, so you've all got a hacksaw in your bags, haven't you? Right. So it's up to you which method you use. I would recommend using this, but don't over tight it because then the blade will shatter. Okay. Yeah. Happy? Any questions?
No.
Nope. Right. So we'll start on this after lunch.